Hey, welcome back to part 2 of this Khopesh build. We've got a nice integral garden bolster, forged out blade. So now I've got to do some rough grinding, and then I'll throw it in the oven for some normalizing cycles. Pretty much I'm just going to try and get it to fit in the oven, and then I'll run my cycles, and then I'll be back out for more grinding before hardening and tempering. Alright, I'm going to put the sword in for the third normalizing cycle, or the third thermal cycle. And kind of my process for getting ready for hardening is I'll do one hot normalizing cycle right after I finish forging. And the purpose of that is just to kind of relieve any stresses in the blade and kind of even out the grain structure and normalize it. After that, I do my thermal cycles in the oven. I do 1650 degrees, 1500 degrees, and 1350 degrees. And the purpose of that is to reduce the grain size and make it tighter and finer so that we can have a tougher blade in the end. We're going to do the last cycle on this sword. The oven is coming up to 1350 degrees, and I'm going to wait until it gets pretty close to temperature before I put this in there, like maybe 1000 degrees, I don't know, somewhere there. In addition to the sword, I've also got these two choppers that are going to be in there that I've been heat treating alongside this one. There's not going to be a video for either of these, but very soon I hopefully will be making a video on making a chopper, or a few, because I really like making these and they're kind of something I do a lot, so I figure I should probably do a video on them. So now I'm going to start thinning this blade out. I'm probably going to leave it about this thickness down here, but I'm definitely going to give it some taper so it's not too forward heavy. It's still going to be fairly forward heavy, but you know, it can't be too heavy. So I'm just going to start off on a coarse, very worn 36 grit belt just to kind of get through this scale, and then I'll switch to a fresh 36 grit belt because that's going to eat that steel off a lot faster. The reason I start off on this worn out belt is just because the scale is really hard and it can really screw up your fresh belts. So I'm just going to use this worn out belt that doesn't really care and then switch to a fresher belt to really rip steel off of here. Alright, here we've got some Greek yogurt. Oh, no, that's just satanite. Never mind, scratch that. So I've got some lines here. And I'm going to put the satanite within those lines, and I've got it even on both sides. And I'm just going to put it on there, and that's going to create the hamon when we harden the blade. Alright, the satanite on this has dried, so we're ready to harden this blade. This will not fit into my quench tank, so we are going to go heat treat this at David Mirabile's shop. He's a really great smith. He does a lot of kind of Japanese inspired blades, and he is really, really good. And he's got a kind of different setup for heat treating. He uses fluidized sand, and how that basically works, it's got a tube inside of a kiln, and the kiln heats the sand, and it's got kind of air bubbling up through it. That kind of turns the sand from more like a, you know, solid and hard to like a fluid basically, and you can just kind of dunk it right in there. So that's really nice and even, and it's, you know, a good way to heat treat. And he's got a bigger quench tank. So we're gonna drive out to his shop and hopefully get this thing hardened up. Alright, the sword has been hardened. Big thanks to David for letting me use his fluidized sand. The sword came out real nice and hard. I haven't checked yet, but I think the hamon took nicely just because of the way it kind of looks, I guess, after hardening. But next I've got to temper this and grind it, but that will be in part 3. So thank you for watching to the end of this episode. Make sure to like and subscribe. Go follow me on Instagram, all of that. And I will see you in the next episode where I will hopefully get this blade tempered, ground, finished, and whatever. Make sure to subscribe to see all the other future parts of this build, because I think it's going to be pretty epic, and hopefully I can share my journey and maybe what little wisdom I have regarding the making of weird swords like this. Very little wisdom. But if anything else, you can learn from seeing me do it and any possible problems I run into and whatever. But that's all. Thank you. Have a good one. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.